What's up, everybody? Jordan Stewart here from Vover. Thanks so much for tapping into the Vover Original Show. Just a reminder that if you want to drop your opinions about the episode or respond to the host and guests with your voice, go and download the Vover app wherever you get your apps. Vover, voice over everything. Enjoyed the show.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to this Monday edition of the Vover Sports Card Show. I am your host, Frank Hrelja. There's a lot of things going on in sports right now affecting the card market. If we look at the NBA, free agency starts today. Last week, we were seeing trades happening right before the draft. That affected the market. And on top of all this, the NFL starts in a few weeks, and we're seeing in training camp right now, players' injuries affecting the card market as well. So I want to get into all of this today and help you guys make sure you're making the right decisions. The first story we have to talk about is this Carson Wentz injury, because it could be a really big deal. If we remember what happened to Wentz cards last year, they got extremely hot heading into the season when he was going to be starting for the Eagles. Everybody thought that the NFC East was wide open. Wentz had an awful year, ended up getting replaced by Jalen Hurts. And I talked about his car market about a month ago, using him as a reference to show that your car prices can drop a lot as a quarterback if you don't perform well early on in the season. If we look at Carson Wentz cards heading into early 2021, they obviously jumped up as soon as we found out that he was going to be going to the Colts. And we've seen his car prices do well over the last few months. But as soon as his injury news happened, it did start to drive down his market. If we look at his Silver Prism rookie card PSA 10, this car went from $500 just last week, and today it's selling for $375. So that is a big drop already. And if you're a Carson Wentz collector, you need to ask yourself a couple questions. Number one, I don't think it's necessary to panic right now. We don't know the severity of the injury. Supposedly, Wentz is going to rest, see how he feels, and there's some hope that he won't need surgery and potentially could be ready for the start of the season. But if you bought Carson Wentz back in November when his stuff was dirt cheap, hoping to hear news that he was going to get moved somewhere, you're still up a ton. You bought his Optic Hollow rookie card PSA 10 back in November, it was $70. That card today, you can get $350 for it easily. And it feels like it's going to be a week or two before we get some definitive news on Wentz's injury. So over these next couple of weeks, you could still sell his cards for a big profit relative to where they were in late 2020. For me personally, Wentz is just not a guy that I think I could get behind. He's getting injured every single year. I believe in the Colts so much as a team. I like their roster, and I think they'll make any quarterback look better than they probably are. But at the exact same time, you need to be on the field to be collectible. And the reason I'm bringing up his injury is not really talk about Carson Wentz, but really to talk about Jacob Eason, because we now see people pouring money into his cards, assuming that he might get some starts early on in the season. Jacob Eason is a guy that a couple months ago, you could have been buying really cool cards of his. His Select 1-of-1 Black sold for $800. His Prism Black release card from Chronicles, number 10, sold for $400 a couple months ago. So I think at those prices, maybe you could have made the case that there was a value proposition, hoping that at some point Jacob Eason was going to be able to start for the Colts, possibly anticipating a Wentz injury, possibly anticipating good preseason play, whatever it is, hoping to be able to sell after one or two good flashes. Now, personally, let's be clear, I would never buy Jacob Eason cards then. I would never buy it now. There's just too much uncertainty around him. And if he never gets the chance on the field, or if he does get the chance and he doesn't perform well in those couple games that he's allowed to start, he doesn't look good, his chance of being a starting quarterback might be done forever, and those cards might be worthless in just a couple years. There are too many cool card plays that I like for me to be spending my time looking at his cards, but the point I want to tell you guys is this. If you have Jacob Eason cards, and you can sell them right now for double or triple of what they were 2 weeks ago, I would take the money. The risk reward is in your favor. And if you hold them right now, hoping to try to sell right before his first start or hoping he performs well in his first start, we might hear in a week from now that Carson Wentz could be starting week 1 or week 2 and that it's his team still. And Jacob Eason is going to be sitting on the bench and everybody's going to forget about him. And come November, his cards will not be desirable whatsoever. When right now we can look at the basketball card market, it's the offseason, and we see a lot of guys like Zion Williamson, Trae Young, John Morant. Their cards are off all-time peaks, and a lot of their auctions, I believe, are going for good deals at the moment, especially if you're looking at the right stuff. But instead, you're holding Jacob Eason cards. So if you're holding Eason, you better hope that not only he's a starter, but that he's good enough to give the Colts confidence that he could be a long-term franchise quarterback. If you're just a backup quarterback in the NFL, you have zero card collectability. And if you have a Jacob Eason card that was worth $300 last week and now you're seeing it sell for $900, I think you're absolutely crazy to be holding it right now. Always take into consideration the risk and reward, and make sure if you're holding a card of a player when it went up a lot, make sure you really believe in that player. You really like that card, because when that card goes down in price, you're going to be frustrated that you didn't sell. Now, to move off of the NFL and talking about injuries, let's talk about the NBA, because it's the offseason right now. There's a lot of big things going on right now. NBA free agency starts today, but the thing I really want to talk about that happened last week is the Russell Westbrook trade, because it does have big implications on the sports car market. And we're really hearing mixed reviews in terms of how people are viewing Russell Westbrook leaving the Wizards and going to the Lakers. There are some people that think that this deal was amazing for the Lakers and they're now the title favorites, and there are some people that think it was awful and it's actually going to hurt the Lakers. I think the right answer lies somewhere in the middle. I think the Lakers getting rid of guys like KCP and Trez and Kuzma, players that the Lakers truly can trust in the postseason, and to package that up and get Russell Westbrook, where we can say that Russell Westbrook doesn't show up in the postseason. We can say that Russell Westbrook's game hasn't adapted to the newer NBA because he can't shoot three-pointers. But let's understand who we're talking about. We're talking about a 32-year-old guy, so he still has gas in the tank. We're looking at Russell Westbrook being a 9-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ, 3-time assist leader, 9-time All-NBA, league MVP. And understand that before Russell Westbrook, we haven't been able to see a guy average a triple-double since Oscar Robertson. Russell Westbrook makes it look normal now to average a triple-double. If someone were to have told you 5 years ago that Russell Westbrook was going to be capable of averaging triple-doubles for the entire season, you would have called them crazy. We have not seen this since Oscar Robertson. But Russell Westbrook makes it look normal, and I understand that he does not have the perfect game. I understand he has weaknesses, but it's super important to realize this. Russell Westbrook has never been the third option on a team in his life. We're talking about a guy who's a league MVP. We're talking about a guy that averages 23 and 10 and 10 in his sleep. So when we look at Westbrook and say he can't get doubled anymore, I think Russell Westbrook's going to have an incredibly productive season next year. And if you're going to cry that he can't shoot three-pointers, I expect the Lakers to be adding some three-point shooting over these next couple weeks of free agency to make up for the deficiency, because between LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook on the floor at the same exact time, that's three guys who aren't above average three-point shooters. But if the Lakers add a few pieces, that problem will be solved. And I'm looking over these next 3 or 4 months, and I think there's going to be nothing but good narratives and storytelling about Russell Westbrook and the Lakers. Lakers add a couple shooters, and I'm going to talk about the one guy I want them to add later on in the show, and I think he's a guy that you should be buying right now. Talking about Westbrook specifically, I look at him as a player who's accomplished everything in terms of an individual. He's a league MVP. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And what's really the only thing holding back his legacy that people can use against him? It's simply the fact that he's never won a title before, and now he's alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis, a duo who have proven that they can win a championship together. I trust Rob Pelinka's ability this offseason to put solid role players around this team to meet their needs. And I think heading into this season, over these next few months, and even the early parts of when the season actually begins, I think we're going to hear nothing but good things about the Lakers and Russell Westbrook, because what bad things can be said? The Lakers got better. You can't tell me that KCP and Kyle Kuzma and Trez are better than having an MVP. And the basketball card market overall, I do think agrees with me on this. If we look at his Topps Chrome rookie card PSA 10, this was $1,000 just a few weeks ago. We now saw this card sell the night of the trade happening for $2,400 again. If you want to buy Russell Westbrook cards and you just want to go after Topps Chrome or Topps Base, could there be money to be made over these next few months? Possibly. I think seeing the card go from $1,000 to $2,400, I think a lot of the margin's gone. And I think if you want to buy Russell Westbrook and you believe overall his card market is going to be in a higher spot, and as a player, he's going to be more collectible heading into the season, I think there's a lot of cool things that you could do, because base flagship PSA 10s are going to increase in price before anything else. But what isn't going to increase that much yet? I think you should be looking at comps and asking, what did his Kaboom sell for a couple weeks ago? What did his Color Blast, short print parallels, autos? Doesn't have to be rookie cards, from all different years. Find really cool cards. Find Revolution Galactic cards. Find things that you don't see very often. And it's likely that you could pick up one of those cards today closer in price to what they were a couple weeks ago before the trade happened, compared to just going after his Topps Chrome rookie card PSA 10, because that's the first thing that everybody jumps on. And sticking on the Lakers and talking about another NBA legend who has the ability to potentially shift their narrative, it's Carmelo Anthony. And there's rumors that Melo wants to come to the Lakers. Possibly it even happens in the next couple days. And I think if this happens, it would be incredible for his car market. Carmelo Anthony's a top 10 scorer in NBA history. Melo's a guy who was a superstar in New York. He continuously put up all NBA type numbers, but the Knicks as a team just didn't have it in terms of being capable of competing in the postseason or winning a championship. Farthest they ever got was the second round of the playoffs. But if you're looking at Carmelo Anthony as a player, he has all the accolades, the same way Russell Westbrook does. And if we're going to be talking about Carmelo Anthony's car market, what can help him be that true legend? It's winning a title. And if we look at what Melo's done these last 2 years on the Blazers since coming back in the NBA, he's been productive. He's shown that he could play like Team USA Melo, where he could be a spot-up shooter, where you could give him isolations in the mid-post. You could ask him to play 25 minutes and score 14 points per game efficiently, and he'll do that for you. That's all the Lakers need. Do I think if Carmelo goes to the Lakers, he's going to average 23 a night? No. I think Carmelo's going to probably average between 12 and 14 points per game, but I also do think there's going to be multiple big primetime TV games over the course of the regular season, and especially postseason games, where the Lakers are going to turn to him late and he's going to get big shots on the biggest stages with everybody watching. And Melo's going to come through. What I saw in the bubble last year, what I saw during the course of this season was Carmelo Anthony could still put the ball in the bucket. He's above a 40% three-point shooter. And with LeBron as his point guard, he's going to get some of the easiest looks he's ever gotten in his entire career. If you look at Carmelo Anthony's card market, it got very hot in January and February. We've seen it cool down a ton. We're talking about 20 to 25% of what it was back then. You look at something like his Topps Chrome rookie card PSA 10. You could currently get that card for $500. His Topps base rookie card PSA 10. You could currently get that card for $200. His Topps Chrome refractor rookie card PSA 10. Currently selling for $1,800. This was once a $7,000 card. Don't think it goes back to that price, but it does show the point that these cards are way off where they were. Melo is not going to retire. He's going to choose a title contender to try to win his first ring, and we're going to see good news coming his way. We're going to see some excitement happen when the season comes around. I think he's going to have some good games next year, and I think if you're buying Carmelo Anthony, you're buying a guy that's a proven superstar, a proven legend, a guy who's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. And those are the kinds of guys that I think that there's a lot more upside than risk. If you buy a Carmelo Anthony card today, you're paying a quarter of what the all-time high prices were 4 or 5 months ago. You're buying a guy that you know is going to be playing on a postseason team next year. And you're buying a guy that's going to continue to climb in the top 10 all-time scoring in the NBA. I think there's a lot more upside than risk in terms of talking about him. So I know I'm going to be looking at Carmelo Anthony cards over the next couple of days. My goal is to try to get in and get some cool cards now before the news happens and before everybody's looking at him. I've been looking at auctions over the weekend, and there's really cool short print cards, not just rookie cards, but even stuff like 2007 Topps, 2008 Topps, X-Fractor rookie cards, different color parallels, where you're getting PSA 9s and PSA 8s for $30, $40. I like the value play, and I'm happily a buyer at those prices. So I appreciate you listening to this Monday edition of the Vover Sports Card Show. I am your host, Frank Hrelja, and I'll be back again on Wednesday.
Vover